You leave the lad with me tonight, she coaxed. Ma Grimsby owned the lodgings where Jem and Paul stayed between shifts at the Braidwood end of the Braidwood to Goulburn run. She'd been trying to get Paul to notice her ever since her husband had tripped and broken his neck falling down the cellar stairs. But if Paul married again, it wouldn't be to a skinny hen like Ma Grimsby, who served watery mutton stew for breakfast, dinner and supper, and whose last husband might have fallen down the stairs, but might just as easily have been pushed. Paul still said nothing. Paul never said much. When the brown snake had peered down from the coach roof last summer, Paul had just grabbed it behind the head and flung it under the wheels before it had time to strike. All Paul said was, "Ain't paid its fare." And that time a passenger had bounced out of the coach and into the swamp? Why, Paul had just pulled the horse to a stop, hauled the man in again and told him, "Won't charge you extra to carry the mud." Paul was the best driver in Cobb and Co, which meant the best in all Australia. You needed to be a skilled whip indeed to handle 5 horses, and an even better one to do the overnight mail run to Goulburn to meet the train to Sydney, a 14-hour drive on a rough track in the darkness with only a few minutes break at each of the 4 coaching posts to change horses. Changing horses every 10 or 20 miles and light carriages was how Cobb and Co could get the mail and passengers from place to place so fast. But it was drivers like Paul who could handle anything from flooded rivers to sun so hot you could fry an egg on the coach roof that meant the coaches got through safely, most of the time. "You mark my words, Mr. Donovan. You don't know what you'll be carrying tonight," hissed Ma. A storm of clapping from the grooms and stable hands interrupted her, as Señorita Carmelita Rodriguez stepped into the courtyard, followed by her younger sister. Señorita Rodriguez blew the grooms a kiss. She wasn't wearing the flounced red and gold dress she danced in at the hotel that afternoon, so short in the front that Jem had glimpsed her red garters when he'd peered through the doorway. Paul had lingered a moment to watch the dance too. But even in her green travelling coat and buttoned boots, the señorita was still the most beautiful woman Jem had ever seen. Her hair was long and glossy black as a yellow-tailed black cockatoo, held back from her neck with jewelled combs, and her brown eyes were shiny as creek water. She had cherry red lips, just like the heroines in the dime store novels Ma used to read. Señorita Rodriguez stopped well back from the horses stamping in the icy mud as the groom hurried to tie her trunk onto the coach. Her sister stopped next to her. The girl was about 12, Jem's age, her olive skin slightly more tanned than her sister's, her dark hair pulled back in plaits, plainly dressed in dark green too. Both sisters carried carpet bags and gold-fringed Spanish shawls for the cold journey. Ma Grimsby sniffed. "A Spanish dancer? She's nothing but a painted hussy, showing off her legs to anyone who pays a shilling. Not the kind of company you want for a nice young lad like yours." Now they both ignored her. The passengers would be inside the coach anyway, where they wouldn't bother Paul with silly questions, while he and Jem sat outside on the box above the horses. Paul didn't hold with men riding the coach roof, where any jolt might send them hurtling down under the wheels. He wouldn't even allow a passenger to sit up beside him, only Jem. Jem rode beside Paul, night or day, rain or shine, for the full 14-hour stretch, and then the whole journey again the next day after a night's sleep in Braidwood or Goulburn. Fewer passengers was one of the reasons Paul liked driving the night run. The night run coach was small and fast. It had to be, to get the mailbags to the Sydney train on time. Paul's coach only carried 8 passengers at most, and the mailbags and the passengers' luggage at 30 pence a pound, double the daytime rate. Most people preferred to use the slower day coach, spending a night at the hotel at Sherwin Flats on the way, rather than rattle for 14 hours straight and pay twice as much for the privilege. Those travelling tonight would have a good reason to get to Goulburn as soon as they could. Most, or even all of them, would be bound for the morning train to Sydney, just like the mailbags.